Crossing Lynn's, Olivia Mercer clutched her portfolio closer to her chest as she hurried through the sleek corridors of Pinnacle Advertising. 6 months into her role as creative strategist, she still felt like an imposter among the polished professionals who strode confidently through the glass-walled offices. Her simple navy dress felt inadequate next to the designer suits that populated the executive floor. "Ms. Mercer." The voice stopped her in her tracks, low-measured, with an undertone that commanded attention. She turned to face Nathaniel Westbrook, Pinnacle's enigmatic creative director. At 38, he had already transformed the agency into one of the most sought-after in the industry. His reputation for brilliant campaigns was matched only by his notorious perfectionism. "Mr. Westbrook," she responded, fighting to keep her voice steady. "I was just heading to finalize the cerulean campaign materials." His expression remained unreadable behind steel-rimmed glasses. "Walk with me." Not a request, but not quite a command either. They moved in silence toward his corner office, the city skyline sprawling beyond floor-to-ceiling windows. Olivia felt uncomfortably aware of his presence beside her, the subtle scent of his cologne, the controlled rhythm of his steps. "Your concept for cerulean." He gestured for her to sit as he closed the door. "It's unconventional." Olivia's stomach tightened. "I know it deviates from their previous branding, but it's brilliant." Nathaniel removed his glasses, revealing eyes of such intense gray they seemed almost silver. Bold, unexpected, exactly what they need. The compliment caught her off. "Guard, thank you, sir. I've assigned you to lead the presentation next week." He settled behind his desk. "A minimalist expanse of dark wood. You'll work directly with me to refine it." "With you?" Olivia couldn't mask her surprise. Nathaniel rarely worked one-on-one with anyone below senior management. "Is that a problem?" One eyebrow raised slightly. "Oh, of course not. I'm just surprised." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Don't be. I recognize talent when I see it." Something in his gaze lingered a moment too long, sending an unexpected warmth through her chest. Olivia quickly looked down at her notes. The next 5 days blurred into late nights and intense creative sessions. Nathaniel's approach was exacting, but exhilarating, challenging her ideas, pushing her to defend her choices, refining concepts until they shone. He revealed himself to be more than the cold taskmaster of office rumors. His passion for the work was magnetic. On the eve of the presentation, they worked past midnight. The office floor deserted except for the night security guard, who nodded as he passed. Rain lashed against the windows as thunder rumbled in the distance. "Last revision," Nathaniel said, loosening his tie as he studied the final mock-up. "We've created something exceptional here." Olivia smiled, exhaustion mingling with pride. "We have." When the power flickered, neither paid much attention. But when it failed completely, plunging the office into darkness, Olivia gasped. "Stay calm." Nathaniel's voice came from somewhere closer than she expected. Emergency lights should activate. When they didn't, she felt his hand find her arm. "There's a flashlight in my desk. Don't move." Lightning illuminated the room for a split second, revealing Nathaniel's face inches from hers. In that frozen moment, something shifted between them, a boundary suddenly visible only as it began to dissolve. The backup generator hummed to life, casting the office in dim amber light, but neither moved away. "We should probably call it a night," Olivia whispered, though everything in her rebelled against the suggestion. "Probably," Nathaniel agreed, his hand still resting lightly on her arm. "But I'm not quite ready to let this go." She wasn't sure if he meant the project or something else entirely. Silent confessions. The success of the cerulean presentation changed everything at Pinnacle. Olivia found herself suddenly visible, her opinions sought after in meetings where she had previously been overlooked. The client had signed for double their original budget, impressed by what the CEO called the fresh perspective Ms. Mercer brings to the table. Yet amid the professional triumph, Olivia found herself increasingly distracted. Every time Nathaniel entered a room, her awareness shifted entirely to his presence. She caught herself studying the way his hands moved when he explained concepts, how his voice softened when speaking one-on-one, the rare occasions when genuine amusement reached his eyes. Earth to Olivia teased her colleague Dominic, waving. a hand before her face during their weekly team meeting. Planning another industry takeover. She blinked, realizing Nathaniel had been watching her from across the conference table. He looked away immediately, returning to the budget discussion as though nothing had happened. Later that afternoon, a message appeared on her computer. My office, 7 p.m. We need to discuss the Helios pitch. The Helios pitch wasn't scheduled for review until next week. Olivia stared at the message, heart beating in a regular rhythm against her ribs. At precisely 7, she knocked on his door. The office beyond was dim, lit only by a single desk lamp and the glow of the city beyond the windows. Nathaniel stood, looking out at the skyline, his profile etched in shadow. Close the door, he said, without turning. She did, hesitating near the entrance. You wanted to discuss Helios? He finally turned to face her. No, the single word hung between them. That's not why I asked you here. Olivia's throat went dry. Then why? Because I can't focus. He moved toward her with measured steps. Because every meeting, every email, every decision I've made this week has been clouded by thoughts of you. The confession landed like a physical weight between them. Professional boundaries, workplace hierarchies, potential consequences, all these. Thoughts raced through Olivia's mind. Yet none seemed substantial enough to counterbalance the gravity pulling her toward him. This is inappropriate, she whispered, but made no move to leave. Completely. We stopped a careful distance away. I've never crossed this line before. In 15 years, with any employee, I need you to know that. Why now? Why me? His expression softened. I've been asking myself the same question. He ran a hand through his usually immaculate hair. There's something about you, Olivia. Something authentic in a world of carefully crafted personas. I find myself wanting to know the person behind those perceptive eyes. The compliment touched. Something deeper than vanity. In an industry built on appearances, he had seen beyond hers. We can't, she said, though the protest sounded hollow even to her own ears. I know. He moved to his desk, creating distance between them. I'm your superior. There are power dynamics at play that can't be ignored. I'm telling you this because I respect you too much to pretend. The admission of vulnerability from someone so controlled was startling. Nathaniel Westbrook, who commanded rooms with quiet authority, was allowing her to see uncertainty. What happens now? She asked. That depends on you. He leaned against his desk. If you want to transfer to another department, I'll arrange it immediately. Your career won't be affected. Olivia considered the offer, knowing it was the sensible choice. Yet the thought of not working with him, of returning to the careful professional distance they had maintained before the Cerulean project, left an unexpected emptiness. And if I don't want to transfer, something flickered in his eye as hope. Perhaps, then we maintain professional boundaries. Focus on the work. Just like that? A small, reckless part of her felt disappointed. No, his voice dropped lower. Not just like that. Every day will be an exercise in restraint, but I won't compromise your position or reputation. The office felt suddenly too warm, too intimate. Outside, the city lights blurred into a constellation of possibility. What if Olivia paused, gathering courage? What if we acknowledged this? Attraction. But agreed to certain boundaries? Nathaniel's expression remained carefully neutral.
Wow.
What boundaries would you propose? Professional settings remain strictly professional. No special treatment, no favoritism. She took a step closer, but perhaps outside the office. A dangerous line to walk, he warned, though she could see the conflict in his eyes. Life is full of dangerous lines. Olivia took another step toward him. Sometimes the most meaningful paths are the ones that weren't part of the original map. The metaphor hung between them as Nathaniel considered her words. Then, with deliberate slowness, he reached out and took her hand. The simple contact sent electricity through her veins. If we do this, he said quietly, we do it with eyes open. Equal partners, regardless of our titles in this building. His thumb traced a gentle circle on her palm, and Olivia knew they had already begun crossing the line, not recklessly, but with a careful intentionality that somehow made it feel both more forbidden and more right. Eyes open, she agreed, as the city continued to sparkle beyond the glass, witness to a covenant made in whispers and unspoken promises. Power Play, the Metropolitan Museum Gala, buzzed with Manhattan's elat-sea of designer gowns and calculated conversations. Olivia adjusted the strap of her emerald dress, feeling both out of place and exhilarated. As Pinnacle's representative for the museum's new digital campaign, presence was professional, but her racing pulse had nothing to do with networking opportunities. "Impressive turnout," said a familiar voice behind her. She turned to find Nathaniel, impeccable in a tailored tuxedo. They had maintained their agreement for 3 weeks, now consummate professionals within Pinnacle's walls. While outside, they were carefully exploring the connection that had taken them both by surprise. "Mr. Westbrook," she acknowledged with practiced neutrality, aware of nearby clients. "The museum committee seems pleased with our concept boards, as they should be." His eyes conveyed what his words couldn't. Your vision for their interactive exhibits was inspired. A passing waiter offered champagne. As they both reached for glasses, their fingers brushed momentarily. The simple contact shouldn't have affected her after their private dinners and long conversations, yet Olivia felt color rise to her cheeks. "Ms. Mercer, there you are." Vanessa Hargrove, Pinnacle's managing director, approached with a silver-haired man in tow. "I've been telling Philip about your brilliant work on Cerulean." Philip Thornton, CEO of Thornton Media Group, one of the largest potential clients on Pinnacle's radar. Olivia shifted smoothly into professional mode, extending her hand. "Mr. Thornton, it's an honor. Vanessa tells me you're the fresh perspective Pinnacle has been needing," Thornton said, his assessment frank, but not unkind. "We're considering agencies for our global rebrand. Perhaps you could share your thoughts on our current positioning?" Vanessa beamed. "Olivia would be perfect for your project. Her understanding of evolving markets is exactly what TMG needs." Opportunity was enormous, career-defining. Yet Olivia couldn't help noticing how Nathaniel had stiffened beside her, his expression carefully controlled. "Actually," Nathaniel interjected smoothly, "Ms. Mercer is leading our Helios launch next month. It's a significant commitment." Vanessa's smile faltered. "Surely we can adjust schedules for something of this magnitude, Nathaniel." "The Helios team is built around her concept," he countered. "Restructuring now would compromise the client's timeline." The professional disagreement carried undercurrents only Olivia could detect. Was he protecting their secret by keeping her from a high-profile assignment that would put her in Vanessa's direct sphere? Or was something else at play? "Perhaps we should ask Ms. Mercer what she prefers," Thornton suggested, eyes sharp with interest at the subtle power struggle. 3 pairs of eyes turned to her expectantly. Olivia felt the weight of the moment, her career trajectory hanging in the balance of her next words. "I'm deeply honored by your interest, Mr. Thornton," she began carefully. "The Helios project is indeed at a critical stage, but I'd welcome the opportunity to present some preliminary thoughts on TMG's positioning, should you be interested." Vanessa looked triumphant. Nathaniel's expression remained unreadable, though something flickered in his eyes. "A diplomatic answer," Thornton nodded approvingly. "I appreciate someone who can balance competing priorities. Vanessa, arrange a meeting for next week. I'd like to hear these thoughts directly." As they moved away, Nathaniel placed his empty glass on a passing tray. "Congratulations," he said, voice low. Thornton rarely gives personal audiences. "You upset?" Olivia asked quietly. "No." His response came too quickly, and more honestly. "Perhaps. Not with you. Then with what?" He glanced around the crowded room. "Not here. Meet me on the rooftop garden in 5 minutes." The museum's rooftop offered spectacular views of Central Park, silver in the moonlight. Olivia found Nathaniel standing alone by the edge, hands in his pockets. "I didn't mean to undermine you," she said, joining him. "You didn't. You made the right professional choice." He turned to face her. "That's what makes this complicated." "What does?" "This morning, I was your mentor, guiding your professional development. Tonight, I'm watching you potentially outgrow that role entirely." His admission carried no resentment, only a complicated mix of pride and concern. Is that what you think is happening? Is that I'm outgrowing you? Thornton's project would put you directly under Vanessa's mentorship. She's being groomed for coup. The connection would fast-track your career. Understanding dawned, and distanced me from you professionally. Yes. Are you trying to hold me back? The question wasn't accusatory, merely seeking clarity. God, no. His vehemence surprised her. I want every door to open for you. He stopped, searching for words. I worry about the doors that might close between us as a result. The vulnerability in his admission touched her deeply. Nathaniel wasn't fighting for control. He was acknowledging its inevitable loss. We have isn't defined by our professional relationship, Olivia said softly. At least I hope it isn't. Of course not. But corporate politics are ruthless. If Vanessa takes you under her wing, she'll expect loyalty. She and I have ... history. Competing visions for Pinnacle's future. The pieces clicked into place. I'm being pulled into a power struggle, not intentionally. He sighed, but effectively, yes. Olivia considered this revelation, and I need to know something, Nathaniel. If I pursue this opportunity with Thornton as I professionally should, where does that leave us? He studied her face in the moonlight, seeming to memorize its contours. Then he reached for her hand, his thumb tracing patterns on her skin. Precisely where we are now, he said finally. Navigating complicated waters, but doing so together. If you can handle the complexity. The question hung between them not just about career paths, but about trust and intentions. About whether what they had begun was strong enough to withstand external pressures. Olivia interlaced her fingers with his. I've never been afraid of complexity. As the city glittered below them, neither spoke of how the professional landscape was shifting beneath their feet, nor of how their carefully constructed boundaries were being tested in ways they hadn't anticipated. Fractured trust, the Thornton Media Group project, consumed Olivia's days and many of her evenings. 6 weeks into the assignment, she had gained Vanessa's unqualified approval and Philip Thornton's respect, professional victories that should have felt more satisfying than they did. You look exhausted, Dominic commented, as they waited for the quarterly all-hands meeting to begin. Vanessa driving you that hard? It's the nature of the project, Olivia replied, scanning the filling. Conference room. Gosh. She hadn't spoken privately with Nathaniel in over a week. Their relationship had become a series of careful text messages and brief professional interactions. The executive team filed in, Nathaniel among them. Their eyes met briefly before he took his seat at the front table. Small nod he offered. Felt insufficient after everything they'd shared. CEO Richard Montgomery began the meeting with financial updates before moving to departmental announcements. When he reached creative, he gestured to Nathaniel. Our creative director has some significant news to share. Nathaniel stood, buttoning his jacket, a gesture Olivia had come to recognize as his preparation for important statements. After careful consideration, I've accepted an offer to lead global creative strategy for Atelier Group in Paris. The announcement hit Olivia like physical impact. Paris. She gripped the edge of the table as whispers erupted around the room. I'm honored by this opportunity, Nathaniel continued, his voice steady. Leaving Pinnacle wasn't an easy decision. I've recommended Jerome Collins as my successor, subject to board approval. Jerome, not Vanessa. The implications weren't lost on anyone in the room, least of all Vanessa, whose smile had frozen in place. Richard resumed control of the meeting, but Olivia barely heard the remaining announcements. When they were dismissed, she moved mechanically toward the exit, avoiding eye contact with anyone. A text vibrated in her pocket. My office, please. The corridor to Nathaniel's office felt miles long. When she entered, he was standing by the windows, just as he had been the night he first confessed his feelings. When were you going to tell me? Her voice emerged steadier than she felt. Today, after the meeting, he turned to face her. Couldn't tell you before the board finalized everything. Paris. The word hung between them. When do you leave? 3 weeks. Olivia absorbed this, trying to process the implications. That's why you didn't fight harder when Vanessa pulled me onto Thornton's project. You were already planning your exit. It wasn't certain then, he countered. And the project was right for your career regardless. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't pretend this was about my career development. You were creating distance, preparing us both. His silence confirmed her suspicion. Are you going to ask me to come with you? The question emerged before she could reconsider it. Nathaniel's expression shifted to something more complex. Olivia, ... It's a simple question, with an anything but simple answer. He moved toward her. Your career is ascendant here. Thornton is already talking about expanding your role. Asking you to abandon that would be selfish. But that's not your decision to make. Anger flared unexpectedly. You made this choice without even discussing the possibility with me. You decided what was best for both of us. I didn't want to put you in an impossible position, so instead you put me in an uninformed one. She crossed her arms. All those conversations about trust and partnership, was that just convenient rhetoric? The accusation landed visibly. That's not fair, isn't it? You talked about equal partnership. While making unilateral decisions that affect us both, the hurt was transforming into something sharper. Did Atelier approach you, or were you looking? His hesitation told her everything. How long, Nathaniel? They made initial contact 3 months ago. Timeline struck her like a physical blow. Before us? Before everything. The serious discussions came later, he clarified. After we... ... after things changed between us. And you never thought to mention it? Olivia shook her head, pieces falling into terrible alignment. Not even when you saw I was being pulled into company politics that you knew wouldn't matter. To you much longer. I was trying to protect you. No, you were protecting yourself. The realization crystallized with painful clarity, from having to make difficult choices, from having to consider someone else in your career decisions. Nathaniel reached for her arm, but she stepped back. Olivia, please. This isn't how I wanted this conversation to go. How did you expect it to go? Do you think I'd congratulate you and wish you well in Paris? Her voice caught. Or did you expect me to beg to come with you making the decision? Easier? Neither, he said quietly. I hoped we could discuss what happens next. For us. There is no us, Nathaniel. Not anymore. The words hurt to speak. You made that decision when you chose to pursue this alone. I never intended. Your intentions don't matter, she interrupted. Your actions do. And they've made your priorities abundantly clear. A knock at the door prevented his response. Vanessa stood in the doorway, her expression calculated. Sorry to interrupt, she said, not sounding sorry at all. Nathaniel, the board wants to discuss transition details. Olivia Philip Thornton is calling in 15 minutes to review yesterday's presentation. The professional world intruding on their personal collapse felt almost surreal. Olivia straightened her shoulders. I'll be right there. Her voice betrayed nothing of the turmoil beneath. Vanessa nodded and withdrew, leaving the door pointedly. Open. We need to finish this conversation, Nathaniel said, lowering his voice. I think we've said everything necessary. Olivia moved toward the door, then paused. Congratulations on your new position, Mr. Westbrook. I'm sure you'll excel in Paris. The formal address created more distance than physical space ever could. As she walked away, Olivia felt something fundamental shifting, not just between them, but within herself. The painful clarity of the moment was washing away illusions she hadn't realized she'd been harboring. In their place remained questions she wasn't ready to answer about trust, about power, about what she truly wanted, professionally and personally, and what she was willing to sacrifice to achieve it. Behind her, Nathaniel remained silent, watching her departure with an expression that contained regret, frustration, and something that might have been resignation. The elevator doors closed between them like a period at the end of an unfinished sentence. Redefined boundaries 2 months had transformed Olivia's professional landscape entirely. Nathaniel's departure had created a power vacuum that Vanessa and Jerome battled to fill, while she focused on steering the Thornton account toward its successful conclusion. The project had garnered industry attention, with Olivia's innovative approach mentioned in several trade publications. You should be celebrating, Dominic told her, as they worked late in the conference room. Instead, you've been in perpetual motion since Westbrook left. Olivia arranged presentation boards for tomorrow's final client meeting. I've been focused. You've been avoiding. He gave her a knowing look. The office grapevine isn't entirely clueless, you know. She stiffened. Meaning people noticed how things changed between you and Nathaniel? The mentorship that became something else? When she began to protest, he raised a hand. I'm not judging, just concerned. You haven't been yourself? Olivia considered denying everything, then sighed. It's complicated. Most worthwhile things are. Dominic gathered his papers. For what it's worth, he wasn't the same after you started working with Vanessa. Whatever happened between you affected him too. After he left, Olivia sat alone in the quiet conference room. She hadn't allowed herself to think about Nathaniel beyond necessary professional references. The hurt had calcified into something hard and protective around her heart. Her phone buzzed with an email notification. Probably another last-minute client request. She glanced down and froze. From N. Westbrook at a teliergroup.com subject. Pinnacle Atelier. Collaboration proposal. Her finger hovered over the delete button, but professional curiosity won out. The email was formal, addressed to both her and Vanessa, proposing a joint venture between Pinnacle and Atelier for an international sustainability campaign. A major opportunity that would require representatives from both agencies to meet in person in Paris. Next week, the strategic brilliance wasn't lost on her. Vanessa couldn't refuse such a potentially lucrative collaboration, or could she send anyone but Olivia to represent the Thornton campaign strategies that had made her reputation? A second email arrived minutes later from n.westbrook at ateliergroup.com. Subject: Personal Olivia. Some conversations shouldn't end as ours did. Some bridges shouldn't remain burned. If you're coming to Paris, please consider meeting me not as representatives of our agencies, just two people with unfinished business. The decision is yours, as it always should have been. And the carefully constructed walls she'd built trembled. Slightly Paris in early autumn was everything the clichés promised: golden light on ancient stone, Seine reflecting centuries of beauty. The Atelier Group offices occupied a renovated 19th-century building near Place Vendôme. All modern glass interiors within classical architecture. Olivia arrived precisely on time, Vanessa beside her. The reception area buzzed with multiple languages. Art installations punctuating the space with bold colors. Nathaniel always did have excellent taste, Vanessa murmured, assessing their surroundings. Though I'm surprised he sent the invitation to both of us. Professional courtesy, Olivia replied neutrally. A young woman approached them. Ms. Hargrove, Ms. Mercer? Welcome to Atelier. If you'll follow me, the team is waiting. They were led to a conference room where several people stood in conversation. Nathaniel turned as they entered, his expression professionally pleasant. Vanessa, Olivia, thank you for coming. He made introductions to his French colleagues, his ease in the environment evident. He had found his place here. The meeting progressed smoothly, business discussions focusing on potential collaboration points. Olivia presented the Thornton campaign strategies that might align with Atelier's sustainability initiative. Nathaniel built upon her points with thoughtful additions, a professional rhythm still surprisingly intact despite everything that had happened. When they broke for lunch, Vanessa was immediately engaged by Atelier CEO, leaving Olivia momentarily alone. Nathaniel approached, maintaining a careful distance. Your presentation was exceptional, he said. Thornton was lucky to have you. Thank you. She kept her tone professional. The sustainability angle has potential. He studied her face. You considered my email? I'm still here, aren't I? A small smile touched his lips. Yes, you are. He glanced toward the others. Could you stay after the meeting concludes? There's something I'd like to show you. Professional curiosity battled with personal caution. What is it? A perspective I think you might appreciate. His eyes held hers. Trust me this once. The phrase hung between them, laden with history. Finally, she nodded once. Hours later, as the meeting concluded with tentative agreements for future collaboration, Vanessa announced she had dinner plans with Atelier's CEO. Don't wait up, she told Olivia with a knowing smile. I suspect this negotiation might run late. When the room had emptied, Nathaniel turned to her. Ready? For what? Exactly? Short walk? He led her through the building to a private elevator that opened onto a rooftop garden overlooking Paris. The Eiffel Tower stood in the distance, Notre Dame's reconstruction visible beyond ancient rooftops. "This is where I come to think," he said, leading her to the edge. "To remember what matters beyond quarterly reports and campaign metrics." The panorama was breathtaking. Centuries of human aspiration rendered in stone and light. Despite herself, Olivia felt something tight within her chest begin to loosen. "Why did you really invite me here, Nathaniel?" He turned to face her, the setting sun casting his features in warm gold. "Because I made a mistake. Several, actually. Professional. Or personal?" she asked quietly. "Both." Leaned against the railing. "I convinced myself I was protecting you by making decisions alone. In reality, I was protecting myself from the vulnerability of true partnership." The admission hung between them, honest in a way their final conversation in New York had not. "Paris suits you," she observed, deflecting slightly. "Parts of it do," he gestured toward the view. "The beauty, the history, the creative energy. But success feels hollow when you can't share it with someone who understands its true cost." Olivia studied him, seeing beneath the polished exterior to the conflict beneath. "What are you really saying, Nathaniel? That I miss you?" Romantically, but as a mind that challenges mine, as someone who sees beyond surface impressions. He took a careful step closer. "I've spent 2 months wondering if I sacrificed something irreplaceable for professional advancement." The words resonated with her own unacknowledged thoughts. "You're not the only one who made mistakes," she admitted reluctantly. "I expected perfect transparency while keeping parts of myself carefully guarded. Reciprocity goes both ways." Hope flickered in his eyes. "Where does that leave us?" Olivia considered the question, looking out over the city as twilight descended. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "But I've been offered to lead the Thornton account independently with my own team. It would mean more authority, more visibility. He earned it." His pride seemed genuine. "Congratulations." "Thank you." She turned back to him. "I haven't accepted yet." "Why not?" "Because I wanted to see something first." "Paris," he guessed. "You," she corrected. "I needed to see if what happened between us was something worth reconsidering, or if it was better left in the past." The vulnerability in her admission matched his own. Nathaniel absorbed her words carefully before responding. "And what have you decided?" "That some connections deserve a second chance," she said quietly. "By erasing mistakes, but by learning from them. By redefining boundaries with greater honesty and mutual respect." He reached for her hand, his touch tentative. "I'd like that opportunity." Olivia interlaced her fingers with his, the familiar gesture bridging months of separation. "As would I." "What about your position? The Thornton account?" "I'm still deciding." She smiled slightly. "But unlike some people, I intend to discuss my options before making unilateral decisions." His answering smile held both acknowledgement of the gentle rebuke and appreciation for the second chance it implied. "I deserve that." As Paris transformed, from gold to indigo around them, they remained on the rooftop. Two people navigating the delicate balance between professional ambition and personal connection, not with perfect certainty, but with a deeper understanding of what they risked by either separating or remaining together. The boundaries between them had been redrawn, not as barriers, but as carefully considered thresholds they would now cross together, eyes open to both the challenges and possibilities that awaited on the other side. "So," Nathaniel said finally, "what happens now?" Olivia looked at him, then at the city unfurling below them, a landscape of both constraints and infinite possibility. "Now," she said, "we write the next chapter. Together." The Eiffel Tower illuminated in the distance, its light catching in her eyes as she smiled, not with the perfection of fairy tales, but with the hard-won wisdom of two people who had learned that the most meaningful connections often come from rebuilding what was once broken, stronger at the mended places than it had ever been before.